ens hem guanyat aquest referèndum i ens hem guanyat el seu resultat amb un residents i mai més ben dit d'una manera pacífica, però també sabem que tot allò que...
How's it going, everybody? It is the day after the referendum, and I'm joined here with by Simon Harris, who's an author and a local here. You've lived here for a long time. You were recommended to me by a ton of people on Twitter saying that I needed to talk to you because you have a lot of experience. But I think you are, you wrote a book called Catalonia is not Spain. Is that what it is? So I think the first thing I should say is that your position on the matter is obvious, right?
Yes, yeah.
So you want to just introduce yourself a little bit, tell us about what you know and why you know it?
Yeah, well, I've lived here for 30 years. I've written 2 books on Catalonia. I'm kind of originally very passionate about Catalan culture and history. I'm also my second Catalan wife, so I must be very careful about putting a word about what I say about this beautiful country because I'll get into big trouble. And I think one of the interesting things about yesterday's vote was rather than being a question of left or right, young and old, it's a question of identity, and probably the reason why I've become part of the so-called Catalan independence movement is because I identify with this place. Just like the millions of people you saw yesterday, I consider myself an adopted Catalan. So I'm involved in the same emotional charge that the rest of my friends and neighbours are, really.
So I have a really basic question that a ton of people have been asking. How is the referendum illegal?
Okay, basically because it's unconstitutional, and this is a question of Spanish and Catalan points of view. The Spanish Article 2 of the Spanish Constitution says that Spain is an indissoluble unit, and that the sovereignty of the Spanish people lies in all. The sovereignty of Spain lies in all the Spanish people. So basically, if any part of Spain votes on anything that would affect the whole of Spain, then that is unconstitutional and therefore illegal. That's fundamentally the Spanish argument. Whereas the Catalan argument would be is this directly affects us, and we've passed laws in our own parliament, which is an autonomous community, a regional parliament, and so we govern ourselves on the basis of Catalan law, and we think that any region has the constitutional and democratic right to take a decision about its own political future. That's the basic difference of opinion.
This is what's strange to me is that, well, first, I've noticed that most people that I encounter on the left and the right in the United States support the democratic referendum. That if a group of people want to have a vote on self-determination, okay. So it's strange to me to see people saying, "Oh, but it's illegal," but the reason it's strange is that someone put it really well on Twitter. They said if 4 out of 5 people vote to hold someone against their will or force them to stay somewhere, that's not democracy. That's In which case, if Catalonia says we don't want to be affiliated, I don't understand, what is Spain going to do? Come in here with tanks and guns, or?
Well, as you saw yesterday, probably.
Truncheons and rubber bullets?
Yeah.
And the rubber bullets, I'm hearing they're not legal here.
No.
Wow.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, Spain's strong arm tactics have been going on for hundreds of years. Spain has an authoritarian tick that we saw most recently with the Franco dictatorship. You also have to bear in mind, and I don't want to badmouth people and throw words like fascist around, this is juvenile really, but you have to remember that many of the people in government now are the children of ex-Franco army officers and ex-Franco ministers, and the Partido Popular are direct heirs. The party that came out of the so-called transition to democracy was originally called Alianza Popular, and was founded by a Franco minister, Manuel Fraga, and then in 1988, in the year I arrived here, it changed its name to Partido Popular. So there's a Francoist heritage to this. That doesn't mean that these people are actual fascists. I think they believe in democracy, but they've got an authoritarian centralist tick. It's something very typical. Yeah, Madrid rules from the centre. It was created in order to rule the regions.
I think, personally, regardless of whether or not Madrid does or does not rule, they handled yesterday horribly. I mean, I've one of my tweets, it's the most retweeted and it's the police beating voters.
Yeah.
Because I said, you know, it was shocking to me. These people weren't coming out to protest or riot. There was no ill intent. It was literally people, you know, citizens, young and old, going to schools to put a piece of paper in a box.
Yeah.
To say, hey, I want you to understand how I feel. This is what I want. And so the national police show up with rubber bullets.
Yeah. And even on last night's news, Mariano Rajoy, the Prime Minister of Spain, came out and said that the Spanish National Police and Civil Guard had acted in a proportionate way to the level of danger that the Catalan people have proposed. Now, what can you do when you're fighting? You're fighting against an attitude. You're fighting against a belief that these people have the right, and that the Spanish really believe this. I get attacked on Twitter all the time. People calling me the most dreadful things and a separatist and telling me to go back home to Britain. And I don't think they're insincere. They believe that Spain is a unit and it should be ruled from Madrid and it should be ruled in an authoritarian way. And in many respects it's been like this for hundreds of years, which is why the Catalans are so discontent.
Well, I mean, they have the argument that's been presented to me is that they have their own flag, they have their own language, they have their own history. Yeah. So, yeah, do you want to elaborate on that? Or I should just ask you, does that, in your opinion, qualify Catalonia as its own, you know, deserving of its own independent state?
Yeah, well, I'll do a bit of a book plug. If you want to find out more about this, my book is actually called Catalonia is Not Spain, A Historical Perspective. The title of the book is deliberately bellicose. It really should. Really, it's about the 1,000-year battle between Catalonia and Castile for hegemony over the Iberian Peninsula. Basically, what happened is Castile won and made the capital in Madrid from 1562 onwards. The first Catalan attempt at some kind of dependence is Castile realised that Catalonia was a cash cow for Castile, and when the 30 Years' War started, they wanted to tax Catalonia disproportionately and get people to fight in a war that had nothing to do with Catalonia. So this was the first attempt at some kind of independence. There was another attempt in between 1705 and 1714, which is the War of the Spanish Succession, and the Catalan National Day is the 11th of September, the day on which Catalonia lost all its rights, its government, basically the Catalan language, which is a different language, it's not a dialect, it's as different as French or Italian, became a vulgar language rather than language of government or the administration or law. And up until, there's a massive difference, but if any of you know anything about British history, round about the same time, England and Scotland signed an agreement called the Act of the Union, which united these two countries which signs the birth of the United Kingdom. Catalonia was annexed forcibly at the end of a war. Okay, you can argue the pros and cons over who was right in this war, but basically Castile came in and took over Catalonia. Consequently, I think Catalonia has a sovereign right to make its own decisions, because this decision has never been was never made by the Catalan people to become Spanish.
Oh wow. Well then, back to modern times.
Yes, okay.
They went out beating people yesterday. Their newspapers. Julian Assange has been posting about this like crazy.
Great. Yeah.
He posted a bunch of newspapers where it says, you know, violence erupts at the polls, police respond to referendum riots, and I'm looking at these papers like, that is not what happened. The police showed up to a bunch of young and old people walking into a school and started beating them, shooting them with rubber bullets. Yeah, I was doing a live stream and my first instinct was to call these people protesters. And then I realized,
I saw that you did this.
Yeah, they're not protesters.
No, they're voters.
But and not even that, they're just the citizenry showing up to a local school.
Yeah.
All over the region. What do you think is going to happen? Because you know, late last night, early this morning, we heard that, you know, Catalonia has said they've won. That there's independence. That at least they got the votes. And there's been a few reports that they're planning on declaring independence in the next coming days.
Well, I think there's three options for the Catalans. Once again, you see the problem with this, and prior to the referendum, I've been saying that there's a fundamental problem, because it's gone gone ahead in abnormal circumstances. Yes, it was a clear win. 2.2 million people voted. 90% of them voted in favour of independence. It's a clear victory. Catalonia came across very well. Spain came across very badly. But the two sides, for the legal and constitutional reasons, are going to view this very differently. Whatever happens, Spain is going to say this isn't valid and is going to continue with the bully boy tactics. What I think Spain will do in the next few weeks, it will begin criminal processes against Catalan politicians for sedition. It's also going to begin criminal processes against some of the Catalan police officers for traitorous behaviour. I don't know what the charge will be. And it's even possible that using Article 155 of the Spanish Constitution, that they can suspend the autonomy of Catalonia. This is going to be Spain's tactic. Now, Catalonia has three options. The unilateral declaration of independence, which many people want. Now, the problem of this is, as you saw last night, or you saw yesterday, Spain is effectively under military occupation. Look at the number of police that are here. So a unilateral declaration of independence will mean the suspension of autonomy immediately, will mean very even stronger bully boy tactics on the part of the Spanish police, civil guard and military. The military will be shipped in. So the Catalans need to think very, very closely. Oh yes, the Catalans need to think very, very closely about how much they're prepared to suffer in order to win their independence. And the moral position, until you get the international community to really speak out in favour of Catalonia, the international community don't care about democracy. They care about money. So as long as their investments are protected, then the international banks and governments will support whoever controls the money. So I don't have very high hopes myself.
But everything they're doing, it seems to be making the problem worse. You know, if the referendum, some people have told me, and I may be wrong, they may be wrong, that if the referendum was allowed to happen, that Catalonia might not have even won independence.
Yeah.
But because the Spanish government has been oppressing people, shutting down sites, tearing down flyers, and saying, no, you're not allowed to have this vote, it's pushed people towards independence. And not only that, what you're saying is that if they bring in the military, if they bring in, you know, if they put police on every corner, the military comes in, they suspend rights, it's going to make everybody here say, get away from us, we don't want to have anything to do with you.
But everybody can say that, but this is what I said before, how far are people prepared to go? As you see, this is a lovely... this is a lovely city. We're all very happy here. I have a wonderful lifestyle, great food, it's a great life here. When you engage in... because the next stage is something very, very close to revolution.
It is.
Yeah. So, and politicians... Okay, I'll be honest with the viewers. I have a tendency to favour revolution. I feel very strongly about this, but you have to put yourself in the minds of the politicians. When Carles Puigdemont, the Catalan president, gives the order, on his head be it. And if there's bloodshed in the streets, I think there are 850 people injured yesterday.
Yeah, there's over 800.
Yeah, 200 in very critical condition.
Really?
No, sorry, 2 in...
2?
Sorry, 2 in critical condition. Okay. And I've heard it rumoured that one person died. I don't know whether that's from the brutality. Okay, those are pretty scary figures.
Yeah.
Now, you take this one stage further, and the Spanish bully boy tactics, as much as you can say that the Spanish are tactically reacting in the wrong way, what they're effectively doing is they're stopping the revolution as they see it.
Yeah. I mean, I've been joking with my friends ever since we've been here. It's like, oh, what time is it? We got to get back to the revolution.
Yeah.
Because it's not. I don't think it's 100% correct to say revolution.
Well, we call it the revolution of smiles. Is the name that the independence movement has called it for the last 5 years.
I think I could be wrong. It's not my area of expertise, but revolution is when a new government is formed within a state.
Yeah.
And this would be like a declaration of independence, which could lead to a war for independence. And then, yeah, sure, I guess if Catalonia's government kind of stays the same, it wouldn't really be a revolution, but it's a pending war for independence, maybe.
And basically, I think yesterday was a warning from the Spanish government to the Catalan people of how far they would be prepared to go. I think there's various other options open to the Catalan government. What I think they'll probably end up doing is they'll end up calling early elections. If they meet today and decide to call elections tomorrow, then those elections will probably be on the 26th of November. Then the question is, can the Catalan independence parties keep their act together? Because within this movement, it's very transversal. So there's a far left group, there's a left-wing party, there's a kind of centre-right party who, when you take the issue of independence away, they're all fighting with each other over political issues. So it's complex.
I guess the most important question or idea is, how can the politicians in Catalonia protect themselves from the Spanish government?
I think the only way to do so is to become independent.
But they're going to declare independence, right? They say the vote happened. The Spanish government is going to come and arrest them on charge of sedition, and they're gone. Yeah. And then will someone take their place?
Well,
who's going to protect them?
Yeah, I mean, and again, it depends on how much you trust the international legal system. There was lots of talk yesterday about approaching the court in The Hague about violations of human rights. I think the step forward that was made yesterday is this is now it's now in the view of the rest of the world. So people like you have come here. I spoke to the BBC last night.
When I first I've known about the Catalonian independence for a long time. It's been happening for so long. And as I started focusing more and more on this coming referendum, I was worried nobody would care. I figured, if I could come all the way to Catalonia, fly to Barcelona, and make some videos about what's happening, and people might say, yeah, so what? And sure enough, the Spanish government ensured that people would care by coming out and beating people. And that's like, geez. So they've essentially turned the spotlight onto, the international spotlight has been turned to what's happening here by the core actions of Madrid.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you, and perhaps I'm a dreadful interviewee because I'm so much in the middle of it and feel so passionately about this place. It's very, very difficult to make predictions.
Yeah.
I think Julian Assange has been a fantastic ally over the last few weeks. He's been talking about this being a new form of revolution, rebellion. This could be the first time a new country has been created by democratic means. I think the ball really remains in the court of the international community. And one of the reasons why it's important to talk to people like you, to talk to everybody really, is you have to speak out. People in other countries have to speak out and defend the Catalan cause. If what you saw yesterday makes you feel outrage and indignation, then you need to speak to your politicians and get people from outside to put pressure on the Spanish government, because they're not going to do it on their own.
So what do you think's going to happen tomorrow or in the next coming days? I mean, you mentioned a little bit before, but just we're getting close to that wrap up. So
yeah. I mean, there's two options, and to be perfectly honest, I don't know which of these options they'll decide. They'll be having discussions in the Palau de la Generalitat in Plaça Sant Jaume all day today, and it will either be a unilateral declaration of independence or calling new elections. And the left-wing parties will want a declaration of independence. I think the centre-right party will say, well, we should call elections now, and following those elections, then we'll evidently have the democratic mandate to declare independence. But this seems to be just an ongoing thing. This has been happening for 5 years. So there's a proxy referendum, then there's plebiscitary elections, now there's a referendum, then there's more plebiscitary elections, and to a certain extent, we're getting a bit tired of this.
So there's so much that we probably could talk about. For the sake of time, do you have any final thoughts that anything you want to mention?
Difficult to say. I mean, I think it came out clear yesterday that the Catalans have a cause, that it's peaceful, that it's transversal, that it's not about left and right. Lots of people criticise me and say, yes, this is George Soros funded, and it's mind-blowing.
I'm told it's a George Soros plot. then I'm told it's a right-wing Russian plot.
Exactly. You're told
pick one.
When people are throwing this amount of I don't know if I can use the word shit. I've just used the word shit. When people are throwing out this amount of shit at the situation, then they're obviously trying to do it down in the same way as happened with Brexit or Donald, with lots of these issues. I think obviously there is some kind of far left manipulation because it's an unstable situation. Inevitably, the far left party in Catalonia are Trotskyists, but there's a far left party, there's a centre left party, there's a centre right party, and there's people who I know who are good friends of mine who are more on the right. So it's a question of Catalan identity more.
A new government is an opportunity for any one of these parties to push forward ideas they want to see. So it's all right. Well, thanks for talking. It's been a pleasure.
It's a pleasure.
You wrote a book. Catalonia is not Spain. It's not like something I plan to do, but I figured, you know what? I'll mention your book again. So if anybody wants to read it and learn about what's going on, but you have a Twitter. You want people to follow you?
I'm at Simon Harris on Twitter. I've also got a YouTube channel in which I talk about lots of different things. Quite a lot about Catalonia. A lot of, as you can see, I'm British, so I talk quite a lot about British politics. Occasionally about American politics.
Yeah, people love American politics.
Okay.
Yeah. What's your YouTube channel?
Simon Harris.
Oh, there you go. Easy enough.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thank you again. So, I don't know what the plan is for today. I'm going to meet up with some people. We're going to go around and just kind of maybe talk to some people, ask them about how they feel, what's happening. And I wasn't planning on staying as long as I'm going to be staying, but if they end up declaring independence soon, it probably would be smart to stay. So make sure you're following me on Twitter at Timcast. You can support my work by going to timcast.com/donate. Give whatever you'd like, if nothing at all. My videos are always free and available every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. But stay tuned, because there may be breaking news live streams whenever, especially right now as things have gotten pretty, I guess, interesting to say the least. So stay tuned, and I will see you all tomorrow at 4.